Hey everybody, this is David at Barnyard Bees, and today's the day I'm going to do the video on the late season split and show everybody, the new beekeepers and even advanced. One thing I want to talk about as we're pushing towards late August, things get harder and harder as the summer goes on, and that includes doing splits, raising queens, anything like that. You have far more advantage in the prime season of the year in April than you will in any time. So those of you that are trying to learn how to do splits, how to make queens, get on it fast. In April is your best advantage. Like I was talking to somebody the other day that come pick up a queen. It's kind of like football. I tried to compare it to a college football, like the first of the year. Division I teams like Georgia and Alabama and such, they usually pick up a Division II team to start with, and it's a very easy game for them. And as most of those teams, as the games go on, they get harder and harder and harder. Same thing in beekeeping. It's like if you look at it like this, like if bee season starts in March in our area, you know, when you can start doing splits, and when we really start feeding a lot of sugar water too to get them boosted, and the game's easy. You can't hardly make a mistake. You can do a split. You can take, like for example, this hive here. You could take each one of these frames and do a split easy, no problem. I mean, it's just like there's no predators. Everything's going in your advantage. Right now, I was gonna say right there went a dragonfly, but dragonflies are everywhere now. Queens are harder to make. The drone population is down. That makes it harder. Hive beetles are up. Wax moths. The actual heat. Everything is in a disadvantage to you. As time goes on, the game gets harder and harder. So it's like at the beginning of the year, you're playing team Division II. I'm not going to name any teams. But in August, you're playing Division I national champions. So it's harder and harder as time goes on. So when you go do new beekeepers, even advanced, try to get your bee population built up early as possible. Here in North Georgia, the way I look at it, prime time is mid-April. That is like the best of the best times right then. That's here. Now, that don't apply in the rest of the country. Some of the country is ahead. If you go south of us into Florida, their time may be in March. You go way up north into New York State, Pennsylvania, Maine, theirs may be May or even into June. It just depends on your area. So you got to learn that. As a beekeeper, you got to study. You got to find out when your prime nectar flow is and learn it. Do your homework. It's very important, because the game doesn't stay the same as the year goes on. There's not a lot of teachers that teach that. I don't know if I've really heard that anywhere on YouTube. The game changes, and you got to change with the game or it's going to beat you. Like I said, right now, when you do a split, you better make a strong split, because if you don't, and I forgot to add on robbing. So when you're in a dearth, even the bees are against themselves. The bees are against each other. It's all dog eat dog. It's a war. So, but the good thing is, when you're starting out small, you're not going to lose a whole lot, but you need to learn that game and how it works. I did a video on these beetle traps I put out with these CD discs. You can see my bait there. It's diminished down, and the hive beetles are. Now, right now, as I go through these hives, the hive beetles are getting under control. They're doing very good. Our traps are working. The salt vinegar solution that we've been putting under the hives is definitely helping. You can watch one of my previous videos if you haven't seen that, where I treat the underneath with salt water and vinegar. The traps. And I mentioned this too, and a lot of people may argue about this, is this right here, fire ants. Those bees got to eat something, and when those hive beetle larvae fall to the ground, you can bet they're going to eat them. So that helps you right there if they're not a problem in your hive. It just all depends. A lot of things depend. You just got to weigh it out and see which is best. Right now, as I get through these hives, there's no bees or there's no ants inside of the hives, so they're not causing a problem. So here, I was going to demonstrate how we do a split. Now this hive right here, it's not a strong hive, but it's not a weak hive. I call it mediocre. It's a young hive, but it's old enough to split. And there's not a whole lot of bees, but there's enough. And what we're going to do, and I'm going to do this one-handed. I have a better luck doing it without a tripod. I feel like I can move. I'm more mobile and I can move a lot better. So what we do, I've already pre-found the queen here, so I know about where she's at, so I didn't have to take a whole lot of time on the video to find her. She was on this frame. Hopefully she still is. And let's see if we can locate her again. She was a younger queen, so she wasn't real big. This split here is probably maybe a month old. It's not that old, but it's done pretty good. And if I don't find her by some chance, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time taking up time on the video. I'll just do an example of how we do a split. She was on this frame right here. I'm not seeing her now. But I can talk as I look. So what we want to do here is I'm going to pull out 2 strong frames. There she is, right there. I just overlooked her. Right there, she's crawling. So what I do, I pull out, I take the queen and I move her to her new location. She's going right over here in this box. So what I'll do, I'm going to pull out a couple of the strongest frames I have to go with her. These, as you can see, they go at honey. They get capped honey. They get capped brood. They get eggs. They have a lot in there. So I'm going to move, and then I'll put one more frame in, and then I'll leave this hive as the weaker hive, but weaker on frames, but not on amount of bees. And here's why. I'll tell you here. Let me find one more frame here that I think will go good to go with the queen. One more frame. Well, what I'll do, since this frame here has just a handful, I'm going, and it's partially drawed, so the most of the bees with the cap brood are in here. So what I'm going to do, let's drop this in here like this, and what I'll do now, I won't take the time to do it because I don't have well, I can see a couple frames over there I can use. I'll put two right here with just starter strips in. Let me go right here. I think I got a couple. Actually, I do right here that I can grab. And what I'll do, so remember now, the queen's in here. She's established. She's laying. She won't miss a beat. She'll keep on going. They got everything they need right there I'll put a feeder on later on. So right there she is. For now, just so I'll come back here in a minute, but that'll tell me right there. And no, I'm not leaving it for permanent. That'll just tell me where I put her. So when I turn back around in a second, I won't forget where I put her. So now, what'll happen is, even though it looked like I moved a lot of bees over, there's still left a good number in here. And you got to keep in mind, all those bees that I moved are not going to stay. A good many of those bees are going to come back. So that'll even it out pretty even. So what I'll do now, I'll try to find another frame if I can. If not, no big deal, because we're very, very close right now for the goldenrod to bloom. It's everywhere, and it's just almost coming out. So I could put some feed on this to get them by until then. And then when the nectar flow comes back, as in goldenrod, we'll have plenty. So that's it. That's basically it, what we do. Now in spring, say if this was April, I could have took every one of those frames and done a split with every frame except for that one, of course, that didn't have bees on it. But usually in the spring like that, when it's built up, there's a lot of bees in there. So just remember, you gotta keep some strength in your hives right now. There's too much against them. So if you're gonna do a split, do it like that. Just don't take one, unless you have an extremely strong hive. You can actually split maybe more than that, but this was kind of just a mediocre, what I'd call mediocre at best. There wasn't a whole lot of bees in it. So there's 2 starter strips. I'll try to find another frame that's got, and what I might do too, there's different ways of doing this. There's so many, and another beekeeper may do this different. This is an example. This works for us. What I might do also is go into a hive that I was going to split but wasn't quite strong enough, and take one frame of theirs and put it in here also. And now what I'll do, before I forget, remember I got the mating nucs down there. So what I'll do, I'll make sure that I mark this hive very well, but I don't forget. And I'll come back tomorrow and I'll put a replacement queen in there. Now, here's the thing too, if you possibly can, put a mated queen in there. As you get later and later, it's gonna get harder because the drone population's gonna fall. It's getting lower and lower and lower, so your success rate is lower and lower and lower. So if you can, that's a good thing about having those mating nucs. If you're a beekeeper and you have 10 hives, make it 10 or 5 or 10 of those mating nucs. I was talking to somebody, well, I've been talking to several people about those mating nucs. You always have queens available. You don't have to go buy them. They're right there. Those queens are sitting there waiting on me. All I have to do is go down and pick them out. I go down, I'll go through and I'll pick them out, and I'll put a virgin queen back in it, or a queen cell, or do a walkaway split and let them make their own queen. That works too. There's no problem with that. They're always available. And we sell a lot out of these, and they reproduce fast. And but even a beekeeper that has 1 or 2 hives, make you a couple of these. All you gotta do, I did in the video, the last video, is take one frame from your yard that's got young brood and stick it in your mating nuc with an empty frame and let it go. And if you do 10 of those, you're gonna get at least 50% comeback, and that's without adding any queen cells. That's just walkaway split. Now your success rate, of course, goes up. You start adding queen cells and virgin queens, they go up to 70, 80, even 90%. So there's so many different routes. But very important, even like I said, a beekeeper that only has 1 or 2 hives, very important to have you some of these mating nucs ready and available. When you need a queen, you can do it. And if you want to do a split like this, you got it. It's right there, and you go down. Like I'll go down in the morning, I'll catch her, I'll put her in a cage. I'll bring her up here, and I'll introduce her. And they'll release her, and if they don't, I'll release it myself, and 2 days later, you know, let them acclimate to it. These will go queenless, and they'll be wanting a queen really bad. And they keep on right there. That's the big advantage about putting in a mated queen, is they start laying immediately. There's no waiting. And you can make these nucs yourself, these mini mating nucs. They're so easy. Look at my plans, go back and look at my videos where I explain. I got the dimensions on there, how to make them, and they're very simple. They're just a fraction of what these are. That's it. They're the same height, the same length, and they're just shortened down. That's it. Like if you would look at these two frames right here, and if you would cut this off and move this wall over, that's it, and give you a little bit of space. I think in the dimensions I have 3.5 maybe on the inside dimensions. You have to look on the video to be sure. They're simple, and they maintain, and they don't swarm fast. They're all around better than any of those little tiny mini mating nucs that they talk about. These do so much better because those two frame queen mating nucs, they don't swarm. You don't, because those little tiny mini mating nucs that they talk about on YouTube a lot is they're limited, because when that queen comes back from her mating flight, she'll bring back a bunch of bees. They'll pack that hive out. You may go down the next day and they're starved out, or you may go down the next day and they're swarmed out. With these, there's a lot of room. If they get overpacked, guess what you can do then? Pull one of those frames out, stick it in another mate nuc right beside it, and there you got a split. They're that simple. But looking at it again, coming in the spring. I know this is a long video. I just got a lot to talk about here, and please spread these videos to anybody you know. These will really help the beekeeper, especially the new beekeeper. Looking at it in spring, in April, you got so much going for you. You're in nectar flow. There's no hive beetles. There's no wax moths. There's no bees robbing. There's drones galore. Everything's going for you. You can't. It's hard to make a mistake. You can, like I said, you can take 5 of those frames and do a split, and come back in 2 weeks, and you got a mated queen out 3 out of 5 at least, and that's probably looking at it low, because more than likely 4 out of 5. But you try that now, do that split with that one frame, you come back and probably all of them are dead, because something's going to realize that their bee population's low, and they're going to come in, they're going to take it over, whether it's another colony of bees, whether it's wax moths, hive beetles, they know, and they'll take it over. They'll take over the week. So just remember that when the game changes, and you got to help your bees out. And mites, that's another thing. Mites are starting to pick up, so it's important that you treat your hives. And you know, I debate a lot about this with people online about they think you ought to just let your hives die out and let the strong survive and they'll be mite resistant. That's not true. That's far from truth. Because the evolution of bees is not that fast. You know, you would, that's another story. I won't get into that too much, but it basically doesn't work. I could draw this video out another 20 minutes talking about that alone. And I'm trying to keep it short as possible, but that's basically it. Just do your splits, keep them strong if you want to do splits. If not, build them up, but be careful, because if you get them built up too strong, they will swarm on you too. So sometimes it is better to do a split and go buy you a queen if you have to. I mean, that's $30 to buy you a queen, and you have a whole hive going into winter. So any advanced beekeepers, if you have any comments or any more suggestions and trying to help out these new people trying to get into beekeeping, by all means, leave a comment, and we're on here to try to help them get started. We need as many beekeepers as possible. And please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Facebook. We have a group page, Barnyard Bees Inc. Incorporated. And thanks for watching Barnyard Bees.